Good morning, children. Welcome to the English session. Today we shall continue with the lesson The Hundred Dresses, Part 2. Before we start, let's recap the first part. Wanda Petronsky, a girl who comes from the poor part of town, is the only student in her class with a funny polished name. She's always quiet and she always wears the same faded blue dress to school every day, although she claims she has 100 dresses and 60 shoes at home, all lined up in her closet. The story is told from the perspective of one of Wanda's classmates, Maddie, who is the best friend of the main player in the daily taunting and teasing. After Wanda is absent for a few days, her classmates learn that her family has moved away to the big city where they will not be mistreated for being different. Maddie begins to wonder about the girl she and her friends used to constantly tease and realizes that she knows very little about her. She begins to wonder why they started teasing her in the first place and is overcome with guilt for making fun of her simply because she's poor and has a funny name and is different from them. Mary knows that she should have stood up to her friends and defended Wanda. She feels guilty for not speaking up, for standing by, and allowing her friends to tease Wanda. Maddie and her friends later discover that Wanda is a very talented artist and that her drawing of 100 beautiful dresses has won the school's art contest. The girls realize that they misjudged Wanda and feel incredibly guilty for never believing her stories of her 100 dresses. In the end, the girls write a letter to Wanda hoping to make amends, and they are pleasantly surprised by her willingness to forgive. So let's see what happens next. Everyone was having a look at the amazing drawings Wanda had drawn and admiring it when the monitor of the class brought a piece of note for Miss Mason. Miss Mason read that note multiple times as she couldn't believe what was written in it. Finally, she decided to gather the class to read it loud and clear. It was a letter from Wanda Petronsky's dad. She silenced for a while, which created tension in the minds of the students. She adjusted her spectacles, which made it clear how important that note is. She began reading it, and everyone listened carefully. The letter began with a salutation to Miss Mason. Wanda's father conveyed his intention of not sending both of his children, Wanda and Jake, to school anymore. He mentioned that they were shifting to another city, a big one where no one would care enough about their strange name, a big city with a lot of people having weird names. After hearing what was there in that letter, everyone was left speechless. Miss Mason, too, was stunned, and thus she cleaned her glasses, wore them again, and spoke to the class in a low voice. She conveyed her disappointment to the class and asked them to ensure her that nothing was done purposefully to hurt Wanda. She gave the children benefit of doubt that everything they did was done unintentionally. She said whatever happened was sad and unfortunate. She advised the students to introspect about it too. Everyone began thinking about what was written in that letter and how each one of them made Wanda feel. In their first period, Maddie couldn't concentrate on her studies as she felt sick for not stopping Peggy at the right time. Had she stopped Peggy from playing that dress game with Wanda, things could have been different. Although Maddie never teased Wanda, but nor did she stop Peggy from doing it, which makes her just as bad or maybe worse. Peggy's intentions were never to hurt Wanda, and she was not aware that her game hurt her feelings. Maddie, on the other hand, was aware of its impact, yet she stood silent, which made her a coward for not standing against what's wrong. Filled with guilt and regret, Maddie wished for a chance to apologize to Wanda. Hoping Peggy would be thinking about Wanda too, she takes a look at Peg, but she was busy studying. Regardless of what Peggy was thinking, Maddie decided to take some action. She hoped Wanda hadn't yet moved away and she could tell her how sorry she was and appreciate her 100 dresses. That day, after school had ended, Peggy asked Maddie if they could go and check if Wanda had moved or not. Maddie was satisfied at the thought that they both had some plans of apologizing to Wanda. Both of them hurried to Boggins Heights, the place where Wanda lived, in order to find her. During the season, the place was generally wet and the atmosphere was sad and hopeless. Peggy tries to comfort herself by murmuring that at least she didn't call her a foreigner because she was an immigrant. Neither did she make her feel different for having an unfamiliar name. She was always in this delusion that Wanda had no idea that those girls were making fun of her. Above all, Wanda is such a great artist too. Maddie, on the other hand, couldn't say a word. What she hoped for is a chance to confess, make amends, appreciate her, and try to stop her from moving away. In fact, she even thought of conveying her idea to protect Wanda if anyone tried to trouble her in any way. In order to reach the place before night, they hurried. They saw a white little house up there, which they thought was the place where Wanda Petronsky lived. The house and its surroundings were shabby but clean, just like Wanda's worn out blue dress. Thin bunches of glass grew along the path that led to the house. They resembled thin kittens. No one could be seen around the house. They knocked both at the front and backyard doors, but to their disappointment, there was no answer. Now, the Petronskis had gone, and along with them, Maddie and Peggy's last chance to make amends too. In order to comfort herself, Peggy started saying that Wanda must have looked for drawing inspiration only after she started her dresses game. And hadn't she done that, Wanda would have never won the drawing competition. Maddie also tried to convince her after what Peggy said, and that if this is the case, she doesn't have to feel so bad. But later that night, she couldn't sleep as she was thinking constantly about Wanda's little house, her faded blue dress, both shabby but clean, and her glorious 100 dresses that were all lined up in the classroom instead of the closet. Finally, she sat in her bed and started thinking deeply, the hardest she had ever done. She pressed her forehead tight in her hands, which indicated that she was really trying to concentrate. After thinking so much and so deeply, she came to the conclusion that she will always stand against the wrongs and will never say nothing when she has to. She decided that she would never let anyone make fun of others because of their appearance, name, clothes, or where they come from. She would not be shy to speak up against Peggy, even if it meant losing her friendship. She could not go in the past to make amends with Wanda, no matter how much she wanted to, but from now on she is never going to let another person feel embarrassed or unhappy again. On Saturday, both of them sat together and decided to write a letter to Wanda telling her about the contest, asking her where she is living now and how that place is. No matter how much they wanted to apologize, they couldn't summon the courage to do so and thus ended up writing a friendly letter as if Wanda was their good friend. They mailed it to Boggins Heights with "Please forward" written on it because they didn't know her new address. There was no reply for Wanda, but they didn't also receive the letter back. Thus, they concluded that it must have reached Wanda, but she was so upset that she didn't answer. They waited for weeks, but still no answer. Peggy began to forget about this whole thing while Maddie used to make scenarios in her head before sleeping where she defended Wanda. She thought of scenarios where large groups of girls surrounded Wanda and would ask her, "How many dresses have you got?" And as soon as anyone could say more, Wanda would interrupt and say, "Stop," so that all of them could end up ashamed. It was winter season and there was snow everywhere on the ground. Christmas had come. They decorated the classrooms with bells and a small tree. That day, Miss Mason told the students that she had received a letter from Wanda Petronsky. She is very happy to receive it because now she can send her the medal too. The letter began in a very friendly tone. Wanda asked how everyone was and that they could keep her 100 dresses because in her new house she had another lot of 100 dresses lined up in her closet. She specifically mentioned the dress she wanted Maddie and Peggy to take home. The green dress with the red trimmings was for Peggy, while the blue one was for Maddie. She expressed her affection towards Miss Mason and wrote her new teacher could never replace Miss Mason. She winded up the letter by wishing everyone Merry Christmas and also wrote that she missed everyone in room number 13. It was Christmas season and all the houses were decorated. Grocery stores were stocked with Christmas trees, candy peppermint sticks, and other Christmas stuff. The atmosphere was colorful and joyful. Maddie and Peggy took home the drawings very carefully when Peggy realized that this gesture implied that Wanda liked them. They also assumed that she got their letter and everything was peaceful between them. Maddie, on the other hand, was quite sad because she would never be able to see that polished, tight lipped girl again. She would never get a chance to make amends. As soon as Maddie reached home, she displayed her drawing on that part of the wall from where her pink flood wallpaper was slightly torn. Maddie's room was shabby too, but the drawing made it lively. She stared at the drawing constantly and thought how nice Wanda had been to them. While staring at the drawing Wanda had given her, Maddie's vision got blurred from tears. She rubbed her eyes and noticed that Wanda had actually drawn Maddie's face along with the dress. The colors of the dress were so bright and vibrant that the face was hardly visible. Maddie got excited and ran towards Peggy to check if she had noticed it too. As soon as she reached Peggy's house, she asked her for the picture. The drawing was lying upside down on the bed. Maddie raised it, and yes, it was Peggy in that drawing. Both were left in shock and awe at the same time. Peggy consoled herself, saying that Wanda really liked them. Maddie agreed and blinked away the tears which came every time she thought of Wanda Petronsky. The gist of the story. The story reveals why Wanda Petronsky had not been coming to school. The Petronsky family decided to move to a big city where no one would care about the unfamiliar name. On hearing the note, Maddie and Peggy got anxious as they realized that they would never get a chance for making amends for all the teasing they had done. Both the girls got relieved only on learning that Wanda liked them and had dedicated one of the 100 dresses to each one of them. Thus, we have come to the end of the session. Thank you and have a nice day.